The Vasti Armada emerged from hyperspace like a metallic plague, their crystalline ships casting impossible shadows across Jupiter's moons. Admiral Keiko Nakamura watched the sensor feeds from her command chair aboard the Prometheus. Humanity's last hope floating in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The enemy fleet stretched beyond the horizon of space 1,000 vessels, each one larger than Earth's mightiest dreadnought. "Ma'am, we're receiving a broadcast from the flagship," Communications Officer Dmitry Volkov reported, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the Vasti High Commander. The aliens for eyes gleamed like polished obsidian, set in a face that resembled molten metal frozen mid-flow. When it spoke, the universal translator rendered its words imperfect, chilling English. "Humans of Earth, you have violated the sacred boundary. Your species has committed the ultimate transgression. You have awakened that which sleeps. For this crime, your world must be cleansed. We offer you this final mercy. Evacuate your planet within 72 hours. After that, the world ender launches." The transmission cut to static, leaving the bridge in suffocating silence. Nakamura had seen the intelligence reports. The world ender wasn't just a weapon, it was a gravitational anomaly wrapped in exotic matter, capable of unraveling a planet's molecular structure from the inside out. No shield could stop it. No armor could deflect it. Captain Reeves, Nakamura, called to her chief science officer. "What's the status on the deep survey?" Dr. Mira Reeves looked up from her console, her face pale. "Admiral, we've confirmed it. The gravitational readings are consistent with the Leviathan protocols. It's real. It's down there. Down there." The phrase sent ice through Nakamura's veins. 40,000 kilometers beneath Earth's surface, nestled in the planet's molten core, something vast and ancient stirred. The deep survey probes had detected it 3 months ago, a creature so massive it defied comprehension. Its body wrapped around Earth's inner core like a sleeping dragon coiled around a pearl. Humanity's xenobiologists had theorized that the Leviathan was older than complex life on Earth's surface, possibly predating the formation of the solar system itself. It had been hibernating for billions of years, its metabolism slowed to near death, feeding on the slow nuclear decay of Earth's core. The creature was so large that its dreams influenced tectonic activity, its heartbeat synchronized with magnetic field fluctuations. And now the Vasti wanted to feed it a planet killer. "They don't know," Nakamura whispered, a terrible smile spreading across her face. "They have no idea what they're about to wake up." Chief Tactical Officer Lars Anderson leaned forward in his chair. "Admiral, even if this thing is real, how do we control it? How do we direct it?" "We don't control it, Lars. We simply invite it to dinner." The plan was insane. Humanity had exactly 6 to 7 hours to evacuate the outer colonies and prepare for the unthinkable. Not to stop the world ender, but to guide it exactly where they wanted it to go. The Leviathan had been sleeping for eons, but intelligence suggested it was a predator, a cosmic predator, that fed on exotic matter and gravitational energy. The world ender wasn't just a weapon aimed at Earth. It was the largest concentration of exotic matter in the known galaxy, hurtling through space like a cosmic delicacy wrapped in a bow. "Begin Phase 1, Nakamura ordered. "Activate the deep resonance array. It's time to wake up our planet's oldest resonant." As the Prometheus and her escort fleet moved into position, the first resonance pulses began penetrating Earth's crust. Deep beneath the surface, something that had slept since the birth of worlds began to stir. Seismic stations across Earth registered tremors that followed no known geological pattern tremors, that pulsed with the rhythm of a massive, awakening heart. The Vasti had given humanity 72 hours to evacuate. They had no idea they'd given humanity just enough time to prepare the greatest trap in galactic history. 18 hours after the ultimatum, the first skirmishes began in the Kuiper Belt. Scout ships from both fleets danced through the icy debris, their energy weapons carving brilliant lines through the darkness. The Vigilant, humanity's fastest corvette, twisted through a field of frozen nitrogen as Vasti interceptors closed in. Commander Yuki Tanaka gripped her command chair as the ship's hull groaned under extreme G-forces, a vase of pattern Delta 7. "Jonas, I need more power to the rear shields." Engineer Jonas Kessler's fingers flew over his console. "Rear shields at maximum, but we're running hot. Hull temperatures approaching critical." The Vasti ships moved like liquid mercury, their crystalline hulls reflecting the distant sun as they fired coherent plasma streams. One blast seared past the Vigilant's port side, vaporizing a chunk of ice the size of Manhattan. The superheated vapor created a brilliant aurora that momentarily blinded their sensors. Contact. 3 more bogies incoming from bearing 270. Sensor Officer Elena Vasquez called out. Tanaka's jaw tightened. The Vasti were testing humanity's defenses, probing for weaknesses. But more importantly, they were buying time for the main fleet to move into position. Every hour that passed brought the World Ender closer to launch. All ships, this is Vigilant. Execute Shadow Protocol. The human scout ships suddenly went dark, shutting down all non-essential systems and drifting like debris. The Vasti interceptor swept past, their sensors unable to distinguish powered-down human vessels from the countless chunks of rock and ice that populated the outer system. But the real battle was happening 40,000 kilometers beneath Earth's surface. Dr. Reeves monitored the deep resonance array from the Prometheus' science bay, watching the seismic readings painted an impossible picture. The resonance pulses had penetrated to Earth's core, and the response was beyond anything they'd modeled. "Admiral, you need to see this," Reeves called, her voice tight with awe and terror. Nakamura hurried to the science station, where holographic displays showed Earth's interior in real time. The planet's core writhed with movement, not the slow, predictable convection patterns of molten rock, but the deliberate, sinuous motion of something alive. "Jesus Christ," Nakamura breathed. "How big is it?" "The neural clusters alone are larger than continents, Admiral. This thing's brain is the size of Australia. Its cardiovascular system spans the entire outer core. We're not just looking at a creature, we're looking at a living planet." On the surface, the effects were already becoming visible. Volcanic activity spiked along the Pacific Ring of Fire. Aurora Borealis danced across skies that had never seen them before. Ocean currents shifted as if responding to a new gravitational influence from below. But most unsettling of all were the deep ocean trenches. Hydrophone networks detected sounds rising from the absolute depths, not the grinding of tectonic plates, but something that almost resembled communication. "It's trying to talk to us," Reeves whispered. "The Leviathan is trying to communicate with the surface." Meanwhile, in the outer system, the Vasti fleet had completed its deployment. Their flagship, the World Bane, was a cathedral of alien engineering, its spire-like hull bristling with gravitational lenses and exotic matter containment fields. At its heart, the World Ender waited in its launching bay, a sphere of impossible darkness that bent light around itself like a miniature black hole. High, Commander Zephyros stood before the weapon, its 4 eyes reflecting the swirling event horizon of humanity's doom. The World Ender was more than a weapon, it was a fragment of the universe's first moment. Matter compressed beyond the limits of physics, held in stasis by technology older than most stars. "Prepare the launch sequence," Zephyros commanded. "Set trajectory for the 3rd planet's core. Let the humans witness the price of their transgression." But as the World Ender's containment field began to fluctuate, something unexpected happened. Deep space sensors detected a gravitational anomaly emanating from Earth itself, a pull so strong it registered on instruments a billion kilometers away. The Leviathan was waking up, and it was hungry. The first indication came from the asteroid belt, where chunks of rock and ice began drifting toward the inner system. Then Jupiter's smaller moons showed orbital perturbations. The gravitational influence was subtle, but unmistakable. Something massive was stirring in the heart of the human homeworld. "Commander," the Vasti sensor officer reported, its metallic voice carrying an unusual note of uncertainty. "We're detecting gravitational anomalies from the target planet. The readings are unprecedented." Zephyrus's eyes narrowed. In all their centuries of cleansing worlds, they had never encountered anything like this. But the course was set. The World Ender would launch in 49 hours, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it once it was released. What they didn't know was that they were about to feed the largest predator in cosmic history. The evacuation of Earth's outer colonies became a nightmare of logistics and heartbreak. Transport ships packed with refugees streamed away from Luna, Mars, and the asteroid mining stations, their holds filled with everything humanity could carry. Children pressed faces against viewports, watching their homes shrink to distant specks of light. Admiral Nakamura stood in the Prometheus's observation deck, watching the exodus with grim determination. Behind her, Dr. Reeves worked frantically at portable terminals, coordinating with research stations across the solar system. "The deep core resonance is accelerating," Reeves reported, sweat beading on her forehead. "Seismic activity has increased by 4,000%. The Leviathan's cardiovascular system is showing signs of active circulation. Through the deck's reinforced windows, Earth hung like a blue marble streaked with angry red. Volcanic eruptions painted the night side in hellish orange, while massive aurora displays writhed across both poles, like the nervous system of some cosmic entity coming to life. How long before it fully awakens? Nakamura asked. At current acceleration rates, 16 hours. But Admiral, there's something else. The oceanic hydrophone networks are detecting movement, physical movement. Parts of the creature are beginning to extend toward the surface. The implications hit Nakamura like a physical blow. If the Leviathan was large enough to wrap around Earth's core, and if it was beginning to stir, then the creature's extremities might breach the ocean floor. Humanity could be looking at tentacles the size of mountain ranges, erupting from the deepest trenches. In the Vasti fleet, similar concerns were beginning to surface. The world-bane sensor rays painted an increasingly disturbing picture of the target planet. Gravitational readings suggested the presence of something massive and active within Earth's core, while quantum sensors detected exotic matter signatures that didn't match any known geological phenomena. High Commander Zephyros studied the data with growing unease. In the Vasti's long history of planetary cleansing, they had encountered many surprises: ancient defense systems, hidden civilizations, weapons of unimaginable power, but never had they detected a gravitational signature that suggested something alive and aware lurking in a planet's heart. Science Prime, Zephyros addressed his chief scientist, a spindly creature whose crystalline carapace housed a brain larger than most Vasti torsos. Analysis of the gravitational anomaly. Troubling, High Commander. The readings suggest an organism of unprecedented scale. If our calculations are correct, its neural mass exceeds that of our entire fleet. We may be dealing with a form of planetary consciousness. The revelation should have given them pause. Instead, it only strengthened Zephyrus's resolve. The humans had awakened something that violated the natural order, something that, left unchecked, could threaten the stability of the galaxy itself. The World Ender was no longer just a punishment. It was now a necessity. Accelerate the launch sequence, Zephyros commanded. I want the weapon deployed in 12 hours. But as the World Ender's exotic matter core began spinning up to launch velocity, the creature sleeping in Earth's heart stirred with increasing awareness. 40,000 kilometers below the surface, organs larger than continents pumped fluids that had never known sunlight. Neural networks that spanned hemispheres began processing information at the speed of geological time made rapid. The first surface manifestation occurred in the Mariana Trench. Research submarine Bathysphere 7, one of the last scientific vessels still operating on Earth, was conducting final deep ocean surveys when sonar detected something rising from the Absol depths. Control, this is Bathysphere 7, reported Captain Hiroshi Sato, his voice tight with disbelief. We're tracking multiple large objects ascending from the trench floor. Speed is approximately 50 meters per second and increasing. Confirmed. Bathysphere 7, can you provide visual identification? Sato activated the submarine's floodlights, piercing the eternal darkness of the deep ocean. What he saw defied description: massive, serpentine forms rising from the depths, their surfaces covered in scales that shifted and flowed like liquid mercury. Each tentacle was easily 2 kilometers in diameter, moving with purposeful intelligence through the crushing depths. Control, these aren't geological formations. They're tentacles, and they're heading for the surface. The creature breached the ocean surface 12 minutes later. Satellites captured the moment when something the size of a skyscraper erupted from the Pacific, seawater cascading from its impossible bulk, then another, and another. Within an hour, 17 massive tentacles had emerged from ocean trenches around the globe. Each one swayed in the atmosphere like a blind snake testing the air, their surfaces rippling with bioluminescent patterns that painted the night sky in alien colors. Humanity's few remaining news networks struggled to find words for what they were witnessing. The creature wrapped around Earth's core was awakening, and its extremities were breaking the surface like the fingers of some cosmic giant, clawing its way out of the planet's depths. But the most unnerving discovery came from the deep resonance array itself. Dr. Reeves detected structured patterns in the Leviathan's bioelectrical activity patterns that suggested not just consciousness, but intelligence. The creature wasn't just waking up, it was thinking. Admiral, Reeves called, her voice barely above a whisper. The neural patterns, they're not random. The Leviathan is processing information, It's analyzing the gravitational signatures of the incoming Vashti fleet. Nakamura felt a chill that had nothing to do with the recycled air of the ship. Are you saying it knows they're coming? More than that, it's calculating their approach vectors, their weapon signatures, their exotic matter concentrations. Admiral, I think it's preparing to hunt. In a deep ocean, the massive tentacles began to move with increasing coordination. Satellites tracked their positions as they spread across the globe, creating a pattern that looked almost like a net. The trap was being set, and the Vashti had no idea they were about to feed their ultimate weapon to the largest predator in the galaxy. The first Vashti probe to die screamed across subspace frequencies that made hardened naval officers weep. It had been conducting final reconnaissance sweeps of Earth's defensive positions when one of the Leviathan's tentacles erupted from the mid-Atlantic ridge. The appendage, easily 8 kilometers in diameter and covered its sensory organs that glowed like liquid starlight, had moved with impossible speed for something so massive. Commander Petra Kowalski watched the probe's final transmission from the Retribution's tactical bay, her knuckles white as she gripped the console. The Vashti scout ship had been vaporized, not destroyed, but literally converted to its component atoms by some form of exotic matter digestion that her instruments couldn't begin to explain. Jesus, whispered Weapons Officer Marcus Freeman, his face pale as he analyzed the energy readings. That thing just ate it. Ate a starship like it was plankton. Admiral Nakamura's voice crackled over the comm system from the Prometheus. All ships, this is command. The Leviathan has awakened and is demonstrating predatory behavior. The Vashti are about to discover they're not the apex predators they thought they were. In the Vashti fleet, the loss of the probe had triggered immediate tactical responses. High Commander Zephyros stood before the World Bane's tactical display, watching as the gravitational signatures from Earth grew stronger and more complex. The planet itself was now registering as a massive gravitational anomaly, its influence reaching out into space like invisible claws. Science Prime, explain what just happened to probe designation 77. The crystalline scientist's carapace flickered with nervous patterns. High Commander, the probe was subjected to rapid molecular dissociation. Our analysis suggests it encountered a form of exotic matter digestion, a biological process that convert solid matter directly into energy. Biological. Zephyrus' for eyes narrowed. You're telling me that thing is alive? Not just alive. High Commander, the gravitational readings suggest it's been using the planet's core as both habitat and hunting ground for billions of years. We may have just announced our presence to a predator that considers entire star systems its territory. The implications were staggering. The Vashti had encountered dangerous prey. Before species with advanced technology, ancient weapons, hidden defenses, but never had they faced something that could digest exotic matter. The very foundation of their technology. Zephyros made a decision that would doom half the fleet. Launch the World Ender. Now. High Commander, the weapon isn't fully charged. Launch it now. The World Ender erupted from the World Bane's launch bay like a miniature sun going nova. The exotic matter sphere, barely stable in its magnetic containment field, began its journey toward Earth at a significant fraction of light speed. It would reach the planet in 4 hours, carrying enough destructive force to unravel matter at the quantum level. But as the weapon tore through space, something unexpected happened. The Leviathan's tentacles, spread across Earth's oceans like a vast sensory network, began to move in unison. Satellite imagery showed them rising from the water, their tips crackling with bioelectrical energy that lit up the atmosphere like aurora. Dr. Reeves watched the readings with growing amazement and terror. Admiral, the creature is generating its own gravitational field. It's creating a gravity well. The World Ender, designed to follow a ballistic trajectory to Earth's core, suddenly found itself pulled off course. The Leviathan was reeling, eating like a fish on a line. Using gravitational manipulation that defied every law of physics humanity understood. In the Vashti fleet, panic began to spread. The World Ender was their ultimate weapon, their guarantee of victory against any civilization. But it was being drawn inexorably towards something that registered on their sensors as a single, massive organism. All ships, fall back to maximum safe distance. Zephyros commanded, prepare for exotic matter detonation. But the detonation never came. Instead, the World Ender simply disappeared. The weapon that had destroyed 100 worlds vanished into what appeared to be a biological aperture that opened in space itself, a mouth large enough to swallow moons. lined with teeth that sparkled with their own internal light. The Leviathan had fed, and now it was no longer satisfied with the scraps from Earth's core. The creature's true form began to reveal itself as gravitational lenses across the solar system detected movement on a scale that challenged sanity. The tentacles on Earth's surface were just the tips of appendages that stretched through space itself, creating a web of flesh and exotic matter that spanned the distance between planets. Admiral Nakamura received the first reports with a mixture of awe and horror. The Leviathan wasn't just wrapped around Earth's core, it was wrapped around the entire inner solar system, its body threading through space-time in ways that human physics couldn't explain. They had awakened something that had been using their solar system as a hunting ground since before the first amino acids had sparked to life in Earth's primordial oceans. And now it was hunting Vashti. The first attack came without warning. 3 Vashti destroyers, moving in formation toward the inner system, simply ceased to exist. There was no flash of light, no explosion, no debris field. They were there one moment, gone the next, consumed by appendages that materialized from folded space, like nightmare tentacles erupting from another dimension. The Vashti fleet's discipline began to crack. These were warriors who had cleansed worlds, who had faced down ancient empires and cosmic horrors, but they had never encountered a predator that hunted on astronomical scales, that could digest their most advanced technology. Like organic matter. High Commander Zephyros watched the tactical display with growing desperation as more ships vanished into the creature's maw. The humans hadn't just awakened a sleeping guardian, they had awakened something that considered the Vashti fleet an appetizer. The real battle was about to begin. And for the first time in their civilization's history, the Vashti found themselves cast as prey. The battle for the solar system began when the Leviathan decided to stop playing with its food. Admiral Nakamura watched from the Prometheus's command deck as gravitational sensors detected movement throughout the inner system. Not the random thrashing of an awakening giant, but the coordinated hunt of an apex predator that had refined its techniques across geological time. All human vessels maintain minimum safe distance. Nakamura broadcast to the scattered remnants of Earth's defense fleet. This is no longer about defending our home. We're witnessing the galaxy's oldest predator reclaim its territory. The Vashti had deployed their fleet in a defensive sphere around their remaining capital ships, energy shields overlapping in patterns that had proven effective against conventional weapons. But the Leviathan hunted with tools that made conventional warfare look like children playing with sticks. The first coordinated strike came from 7 different vectors simultaneously. Massive tentacles, each one larger than a Vashti dreadnought, erupted from folded space around the enemy formation. These weren't the relatively small appendages that had emerged from Earth's oceans. These were the creature's primary hunting organs, weapons of living flesh that sparkled with exotic matter and bent space-time around them. Like gravitational lenses, the Vashti battleship Razor Wind died first, its crystalline hull cracking like an eggshell as one of the tentacles wrapped around it. The ship's exotic matter core, designed to power weapons capable of sterilizing planets, was absorbed into the creature's flesh like a vitamin supplement. The Razor Wind's crew of 2,000 elite warriors simply ceased to exist, their molecular structure unraveled and processed by biological systems that operated on quantum principles. By the sacred void, High Commander Zephyros breathed, watching the slaughter unfold. What manner of abomination are we facing? The creature's hunting techniques defied military logic. Rather than destroying the Vashti ships, it was selectively harvesting them, targeting vessels with the highest concentrations of exotic matter while leaving the more conventionally armed escorts alone. It was feeding strategically, growing stronger with each meal. Commander Yuki Tanaka, now aboard the heavy cruiser Indomitable, watched the battle from humanity's safe distance with professional fascination and existential terror. It's not just hunting them, she reported to Admiral Nakamura. It's learning from them. Watch the pattern, it's adapting its attack vectors based on their defensive responses. The Leviathan's neural networks, distributed throughout its impossible bulk, processed information at speeds that made quantum computers seem glacial. Every Vashti weapon fired, every evasive maneuver attempted, every desperate communication transmitted became data points in a tactical analysis that spanned millennia of predatory experience. The creature struck again, this time manifesting what appeared to be a mouth large enough to accommodate a small moon. The aperture opened in space itself, lined with teeth that weren't made of any conventional matter, but seemed to be constructed from Crystallized gravity waves. 3 vasty destroyers, caught in the gravitational wake, were drawn inexorably toward the impossible maw. The lead destroyer, Void Cutter, fought back with everything it had. Plasma cannons designed to crack asteroids hammered against the creatures' flesh, leaving wounds that healed faster than they could be inflicted. Gravitational torpedoes, weapons that could shatter a planet's crust, were absorbed harmlessly into the Leviathan's hide. Captain Nexus Vorth, commanding the Void Cutter, made a final desperate gambit. All power to the Quantum Lance. If we're going to die, we'll give this abomination indigestion. The Quantum Lance was a Vasti's most devastating close-range weapon, capable of severing the bonds between fundamental particles. The weapon fired directly into the creature's mouth, its beam bright enough to temporarily blind sensors across the solar system. For a moment, it seemed the attack might succeed. The Leviathan's feeding aperture convulsed, and something that might have been pain rippled through its massive form. But then the creature did something that defied every law of physics the Vasti understood. It began to digest the quantum energy itself, converting the attack into raw sustenance. The Void Cutter and his sister ships disappeared into the creature's maw, their death screams cut short as they were processed by biological systems that operated on principle less older than stellar formation. But the Leviathan's feast was far from over. As it consumed more Vasti technology, its capabilities expanded exponentially. Exotic matter, the foundation of advanced galactic civilization, was being integrated into biological systems that had evolved for cosmic-scale predation. The creature was becoming more than just a hunter. It was becoming a living weapon of unimaginable power. High Commander Zephyros, watching his fleet being systematically devoured, made a decision that would haunt the survivors for generations. All remaining ships emergency jumped to hyperspace, abandoned the engagement. But the Leviathan had anticipated this response. As the surviving Vasti vessels began spooling up their hyperspace drives, massive tentacles erupted from the fabric of space-time itself, wrapping around ships attempting to flee. The creature had learned to hunt in hyperspace, to drag its prey back from the very dimensions they used for faster-than-light travel. The heavy cruiser Stormbreaker almost made it. Its hyperspace drive had engaged, reality beginning to fold around the ship as it prepared to leap into the higher dimensions. But a tentacle the size of a mountain range punched through the dimensional barrier, seizing the ship mid-transition. The result was catastrophic. The Stormbreaker was torn apart not by physical force, but by the dimensional shear of being caught between the states of existence. Its crew experienced death in ways that language couldn't describe. Their consciousness scattered across multiple dimensions before being drawn back together and consumed. Admiral Nakamura watched the slaughter with grim satisfaction and absolute terror. The Vasti had come to exterminate humanity, but instead they had fed Earth's ancient guardian. The Leviathan was no longer just awake, it was energized, supercharged with exotic matter, and ready to expand its hunting grounds beyond the solar system. Communications Officer Volkov reported, his voice tight with disbelief. We're receiving signals from across the galaxy, other worlds, other civilizations. They're reporting gravitational anomalies, ships disappearing, encounters with something vast and hungry. The truth hit Nakamura like a physical blow. The Leviathan wasn't unique to Earth. It was part of something larger, a network of cosmic predators that had been sleeping in the hearts of worlds across the galaxy, waiting for the right moment to wake up and hunt. And humanity had just rung the dinner bell. The remaining Vasti fleet, reduced to fewer than 200 ships, made their final stand in the shadow of Saturn's rings. High Commander Zephyros stood on the bridge of the crippled worldbane, its crystalline hull scarred by close encounters with appendages that shouldn't exist. Around him, his senior staff worked frantically to coordinate what might be their species' last battle. Science Prime, report on the creature's capabilities, Zephyros commanded, his 4 eyes fixed on the tactical display that showed the approaching horror. High Commander, our analysis suggests the entity has been feeding on exotic matter for billions of years. Each ship it consumes adds to its capabilities. It's not just a predator, it's an evolutionary engine, constantly adapting and improving. The Leviathan approached Saturn with the inevitability of a cosmic tide. Its primary hunting organs, tentacles, that stretched across millions of kilometers, swept through space like the fingers of some impossible god. Where they passed, reality itself seemed to bend and fold, creating gravitational anomalies that turned the ring planet system into a maze of twisted space-time. Admiral Nakamura watched from the Prometheus, now stationed at a safe distance. Near Titan, her fleet had been reduced to 37 vessels, the remnants of humanity's spacefaring capability, but they were alive, witnesses to a battle that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what lurked in the dark. Between stars, Dr. Reeves, are you detecting any pattern to its movements? Nakamura asked. The scientist looked up from her instruments, her face pale with exhaustion and awe. Admiral, it's not just hunting randomly. The creature is herding the Vasti, driving them toward a specific location. I think it's preparing for something. That something became clear when the Leviathan began to sing. The sound started as vibrations in the electromagnetic spectrum, harmonics that made instruments across the solar system resonate in sympathy. But as it built in intensity, it became something more, a song that seemed to come from the very fabric of space-time itself, frequencies that touched the quantum foam and made reality itself shiver. My God, Dr. Reeves whispered, watching her reading spike beyond the instrument's ability to measure. It's not just one creature. The song, it's a mating call. It's calling to others. Across the galaxy, ancient slumbers ended. On worlds that had known peace for millennia, planetary cores began to stir. Civilizations that had thought themselves masters of the cosmos suddenly found their worlds shaking. As things older than their stars began to wake, the Vasti, trapped in Saturn's gravity well by the Leviathan's manipulation of space-time, made their final desperate gambit. High Commander Zephyros authorized the use of their last resort, the reality anchor, a weapon that could stabilize space-time itself and prevent the creature from using its dimensional manipulation abilities. All ships formed a defensive sphere around the world. Bane, Zephyros commanded, prepare to deploy the reality anchor on my command. The surviving Vasti vessels, their hulls scored and scarred, moved into formation. Energy shields overlapped in patterns of desperate beauty, creating a crystalline dome around their flagship. The reality anchor began to fail under the coordinated assault. The two Leviathans had learned to synchronize their attacks, creating resonance patterns that turned the Vasti's own stabilization field against them. Space-time began to ripple and fold despite the anchor's influence, reality becoming fluid under the creature's combined will. High Commander Zephyros watched his final gambit crumble. With the stoicism of a warrior who had accepted death, all ships prepare for final engagement. If we're going to feed these monsters, we'll give them the worst meal of their existence. The Vasti fleet charged into the teeth of cosmic horror, their weapons blazing in defiant fury. Ships that had conquered star systems threw themselves against appendages larger than moons, their crews singing death songs that had echoed through 1,000 campaigns. The heavy cruiser Void Hummer ran directly into one of the creatures, feeding apertures, its exotic matter core set to overload. The explosion lit up Saturn's rings like a miniature nova, carving a wound in the Leviathan's flesh that would have been fatal to any conventional organism, but the creature simply absorbed the destruction, integrating the ship's death energy into its own biological matrix. The wound healed in seconds, leaving only a faint scar that glowed with bioluminescent patterns. One by one, the Vasti ships were consumed. Each death was a masterpiece of fuel heroism. Warriors who had never known defeat facing their end with weapons blazing, but their sacrifice was not entirely in vain. With each ship consumed, the creatures grew more sluggish, more focused on processing their exotic matter feast than on hunting. Admiral Nakamura realized the opportunity at the same moment as Dr. Reeves. They're vulnerable during feeding, the scientist called out. The digestion process requires enormous energy. They're essentially hibernating while they process the exotic matter. It was humanity's chance, perhaps their only chance, not to fight the creatures, but to escape while they were distracted by their feast. The Leviathans were cosmic predators, but like all predators, they were most vulnerable when gorging themselves on a successful hunt. All human vessels, begin emergency evacuation of the inner system, Nakamura ordered. Set course for the edge of known space. We're leaving our home, but we're taking our species with us. As the last Vasti ship disappeared into the creature's maws, humanity began its exodus from the solar system that had birthed them. Behind them, the cosmic predators settled in to digest their meal and prepare for the hunt that would spread across the galaxy. The turning point had arrived, but it wasn't victory or defeat, it was survival, purchased with the blood of an enemy who had underestimated what they were awakening. When they threatened Earth, 5 years after the awakening, Admiral Keiko Nakamura stood on the observation deck of humanity's new flagship, the Exodus. watching a binary star system that had become their temporary home. The refugee fleet had grown from the survivors of Earth's evacuation into something unprecedented in galactic history, a nomadic civilization that carried the accumulated knowledge of humanity across the stars. Behind her, Dr. Mira Reeves worked at a console that monitored subspace frequencies across half the galaxy, tracking the spread of what xenobiologists now called the Great Hunt. The Leviathan's mating song had awakened something that slept in the hearts of countless worlds, turning the galaxy into a hunting ground for predators older than most civilizations. Status report, Dr. Nakamura requested, though she wasn't sure she wanted to hear the answer. The Dominion worlds have gone dark, Reeves replied, her voice heavy with the weight of civilizations lost. The Kitharan Empire is reporting massive casualties. The hegemony has retreated to their outer colonies. Admiral, we're looking at the collapse of galactic civilization as we know it. But amid the horror, something else had emerged, something that made Admiral Nakamura smile despite the magnitude of the catastrophe surrounding them. Humanity had become the galaxy's most valued asset. The species that had awakened the first Leviathan had also learned to predict their behavior. Human xenobiologists, led by Dr. Reeves, had cracked the creature's hunting patterns, their feeding cycles, their territorial behaviors. What had started as a desperate attempt to understand Earth's ancient guardian had evolved into the most comprehensive study of cosmic predators ever undertaken. Incoming transmission from the Altarian Republic. Communications Officer Volkov reported from his station. They're requesting immediate consultation on Leviathan behavioral patterns. They've got 3 of the creatures moving through their outer colonies. Nakamura nodded. It was the 7th such request this week. Across the galaxy, civilizations that had once viewed humanity as primitive backwater colonists now begged for their expertise. The species that had lost their homeworld had gained something far more valuable. They had become indispensable. Patch them through to Dr. Reeves. Standard consultation fee, full refugee resettlement rights for 10,000 humans, plus mining rights to their outer asteroid belts. The terms would have been insulting 5 years ago. Now, desperate civilizations agreed without hesitation. Humanity's knowledge of Leviathan behavior was the difference between extinction and survival, and everyone in the galaxy knew it. But the real miracle was happening in the depths of space, where humanity's deep space monitoring stations tracked the creatures' movements across the galaxy. The Leviathans weren't just randomly destroying civilizations. They were reshaping the cosmic ecosystem, targeting species and technologies that had grown too aggressive, to dominant. The Vashti, with their planet-killing weapons and their philosophy of aggressive expansion, had been exactly the kind of species the Leviathans were designed to cull. The creatures were cosmic gardeners, maintaining the galaxy's balance by preventing any single species from growing too powerful. And humanity, the species that had learned to work with the creatures instead of fighting them, was thriving in the new galactic order. Commander Yuki Tanaka, now captain of the exploration vessel Wanderer, transmitted her weekly report from the edge of known space. Admiral, we've made contact with the Gennari Collective. They're offering full alliance terms in exchange for Leviathan consultation services. That brings our total allied civilizations to 47. 47 civilizations that look to humanity for guidance. 47 species that had learned the hard way that the galaxy belonged to predators older than their stars, and that the key to survival was understanding, not conquest. Dr. Reeves looked up from her monitoring station, a rare smile crossing her tired features. Admiral, I'm detecting something interesting from the Sol system. The Leviathans have finished processing the Vashti fleet. They're singing again. Mating calls? No, something different. Teaching songs, I think. They're sharing the information they absorbed from the Vashti technology with other members of their species. They're evolving, learning from every civilization they encounter. The implications were staggering. The Leviathans weren't just predators, they were a form of cosmic intelligence that preserved and processed the knowledge of every species they consumed. In devouring the Vashti, they had absorbed not just exotic matter, but information, culture, technology. They were living libraries of galactic civilization, storing the accumulated wisdom of species across the eons. Admiral Nakamura felt a chill of understanding. Doctor, the creature in Earth's core, how long do you think it had been there? Based on our analysis of its neural development and the complexity of its song patterns, probably since the formation of the solar system. It's been learning from every species that ever evolved on Earth. absorbing information from our planet's biosphere for billion years. The truth hit her like a revelation. Humanity hadn't just awakened a sleeping monster, they had awakened a repository of Earth's entire evolutionary history. The Leviathan knew them, understood them in ways they were only beginning to comprehend. It had been their silent guardian for eons, learning from their development, preparing for the day when they would need its protection. "Ma'am," Volkov called from his station. "Incoming priority transmission from the Galactic Emergency Council. They're formally requesting that humanity take the lead in establishing new protocols for Leviathan interaction." Nakamura laughed for the first time since the evacuation. The species that had been threatened with extinction was now being asked to lead galactic civilization into a new age, an age where the true rulers of the cosmos were no longer hidden, where ancient predators maintain the balance between order and chaos. "Tell them we accept," she said. "But we have conditions. Full territorial rights for human settlements, unrestricted access to galactic trade routes, and formal recognition of humanity as the premier authority on cosmic predator behavior." As the Exodus continued its journey through the stars, trailing behind it a fleet of refugee ships that had become the seeds of a new kind of civilization, Admiral Nakamura reflected on the strange turn of events that had brought them here. The Vasti had come to Earth planning to destroy humanity, to erase them from the galaxy for the crime of awakening something they didn't understand. Instead, they had fed themselves to humanity's oldest ally, a creature that had been waiting in Earth's heart for billion years, learning and growing and preparing for the day when its adopted children would need protection. From the dark between stars, the galaxy would never be the same. Ancient predators now hunted between the stars, culling species that grew too aggressive, maintaining a balance that organic civilizations could never have achieved alone. And at the center of this new cosmic order, humanity, the species that had learned to speak with monsters, guided the greatest transformation in galactic history. They had lost their homeworld but gained the galaxy. They had awakened a predator that became their protector, and in the songs that echoed across space, in the harmonies that touched the quantum foam itself, they could hear the voices of creatures older than worlds singing lullabies to the species. They had chosen to shepherd through the dark. The Vasti had launched a planet killer at Earth, thinking to end humanity's story. Instead, they had become the first chapter in humanity's greatest tale, the species that taught the galaxy how to dance with dragons, and in doing so, inherited the stars themselves. Anchor began to charge, its exotic matter core spinning up to velocities that made local spacetime hiccup and stutter. But the Leviathan had been expecting this response. The creature's song shifted, becoming something darker and more purposeful. From the depths of space, answering calls began to echo not from the creature itself, but from others of its kind. Ancient predators awakening across the galaxy. The first of these cosmic hunters to arrive materialized near Jupiter, its massive form erupting from hyperspace like a nightmare made manifest. This one was different from Earth's Leviathan, sleeker, more serpentine, its hide covered in scales that reflected starlight like mirrors. It had been sleeping in the core of a gas giant in the Vega system, and the mating song had drawn it across 40 light years in a matter of hours. Two of them. Admiral Nakamura breathed, watching as the newcomer positioned itself on the opposite side of the Vasti formation. They're coordinating, hunting as a pack. The Vasti reality anchor fired, creating a sphere of stabilized spacetime around their fleet. For a moment, it seemed the weapon might succeed. The Leviathan's dimensional manipulation abilities were negated, their tentacles unable to punch through folded space. But the creatures adapted with terrifying speed. Instead of relying on exotic spacetime effects, they began to hunt with pure physical force. Tentacles the size of continents slammed into the reality anchor's effect field, each impact sending shockwaves through dimensions that human science couldn't detect. The Vasti fought back with everything they had, plasma cannons designed to sterilize worlds focused their fire on the creature's approaching appendages, gravitational mines, weapons that could shatter asteroids, detonated in cascades of brilliant light. The space around Saturn became a light show of destruction, as the most advanced military technology in the galaxy was brought to bear against predators older than complex life for 10 minutes. It seemed the Vasti might actually succeed. Their concentrated firepower carved wounds in the creature's flesh, sending ichor that glowed like liquid starlight spreading through the vacuum. The reality anchor held, creating a bubble of stable spacetime that the Leviathans couldn't breach. Then Earth's Leviathan did something that changed the nature of the battle forever. It stopped attacking the reality anchor and instead began to sing not the mating call from before, but something else. A teaching song, sharing information across frequencies that touch the quantum substrate of reality itself. The second creature learned, its hunting techniques shifting in real time as it absorbed millennia of predatory experience from its mate. Together, they began to coordinate their attacks with the precision of dancers who had rehearsed for eons. The reality